I'm Travis Wirtz of Wirtz Machine Works, and basically here just putting together an instruction manual for my surface grinding attachment. When you open up the box, here's the main pieces that you're going to get. The wheel, an extra arm, those are extras. This is what comes with the surface grinding attachment. You get the bottom half, which consists of your rollers and your in and out feed. Your top half, which is your slide rail, magnetic table, tapering attachment, and then also this handle. So first thing is, for shipping reasons, I won't ship it with the handle on, just, well, save some money in shipping. And this coupler nut I have here, mainly because that's what's making the stop here. I use a coupler nut because, well, it's cheaper than the standoff and probably works better. And that's going to stop on this plate before it hits the rollers and be a rigid stop. So anyway, pulling that off, and this is just a little button head cap screw because it needs to be flush with this surface. And take my handle, button head comes in from the bottom, and probably should have a washer, but I didn't have quite long enough bolts for it, and the reality of it is it's just a steel plate. And this bolt goes here. The cup, oh, got a mosquito or something biting me, sorry. And then the washer goes here. The washer is mainly just because this hole is recessed, recessed, to give it a little more surface area here. Drop that on there. Then I'm just going to put this on finger tight because I want to go ahead and square this up to this piece before I tighten that down. So I'll leave that set for now. Grab this part, the bottom half, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in the grinder. And you have your coarse adjustment. I'll just snug that up. Now this is, in some of my other videos I showed I used a 8x2, or your normal size contact wheel, and a 90 durometer. I like serrated, but this is a 5x2.5, and that's going to give a little bit more width of wheel to track the belt up and down. And it's also cost effective at about 150 bucks or so. And anyway, when you go, anytime you go and start using the surface grinding attachment, it's good to just take a little rag and spin a roller. You're going to accumulate dust and other stuff depending on how you store it. I just wipe off the surface of the rollers. Go ahead and just give that a wipe. And then you're going to go ahead and put this slide on. Now, if you go and put this on and get all kinds of crooked on a single roller, well, nothing good is going to happen. So I suggest just kind of putting a hand here, supporting it, and trying to be as straight as you can. Come on there, line them up, and then you're on. So now, like I was saying before, is I wanted to orient this coupling nut, which I'm pretty sure you can't see in this video, but basically I'm just going to push it up against this stop, let it go flat, and these little Ryobi impacts are great. Snug that down. Grab my Allen. If I can, somewhere there. There we go. And I can get this out of the way. So now I got my handle on here. And this handle, the biggest thing on here is if your hand's in the handle, it's not coming in contact with the wheel. And that was kind of a big deal. Now the other thing is a guy really has to work at it to pull this past the slide, but it's not a bad idea to drop something in here. However, as you get, which I'm not sure if you can see, but you get all this wiggle in here, and when you do that, is as you go through here, it's just going to collide with the roller and not with the plate stop. And anyway, it can't be good for it. So duplicating what's over here wouldn't be bad, but it's kind of, like I said, it's more in the scenario if you're worried about pulling this slide off. The main part is that you don't go past your stop here. And then, just because I strip a lot of three-phase wires, I have these little ends, and this goes over the coupler nut, and just gives a little padding, a little cushion. Now, the other thing is, when you set this up, is a surface grinder. All surface grinders are known to throw stuff off the table, and it's going to throw sparks that way. And if a blade or anything should by chance ever come off this table, is you want to have your grinder oriented in a safe direction, ideally to where if a blade comes off, got him. If the blade comes off, it's going to go in a safe direction. By all means, don't have your grinder pointed at the door of the shop, because of course what's going to happen is you're going to look up, not pay attention, blade's going to fly off, and anyway, or could. You know, it's no more dangerous than any other surface grinder, but that's just something that goes with all of them. So the first thing you want to do, now it's going to be face the table. Now I really like to start off with, say, a 100 grit belt, and when I face this table, and I have a little tension on this slide, which you should be able to see, and so that makes it to where I can free spin and back this off. And so I just back that off to get kind of mid-stroke of my slide, and then I can tighten this back up. And then that gives me some resistance here to make sure there's no backlash. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and slide this up, go almost to touching, and I have my adjustment in here. Now, the next thing, and very important, is before you go and face this table, is to have a 3/4 inch wrench handy. And just to check, is this wasn't tight. Glad thing I did check. That would make for I might have to do some editing. Anyway, is to go ahead, and I like to just make sure there's no debris where this dowel pin, but it's a round surface, it's going to want to push it aside. And go ahead and hold that down. I like to tighten the slug nut first, just because the clockwise is going to pull it in against this dowel pin, and this is going to lock it down. These are 7/16 fine thread studs, so you don't have to get crazy on the wrench, because you'll have to loosen it later anyway. Well, if you want to do tapering, which you probably will. And so we're going to start facing this table. Well, we kind of need to know the depth of our magnets. So I just take, if you have some 1/16 inch shim stock, a little piece of 1/16 inch shim stock to put over one of the magnets, which you probably can't see very well, but it's kind of important, is these magnets are recessed, and they should come basically, if I take the end of my caliper, we're about 70 thousandths. Yeah, 70 thousandths. I guess, well, you can take my word for it. You might be able to see the numbers. Oh yeah, there we go. 69, 68. Basic, we'll call it 70 thousandths. Because you want to face this table down to about 60 to 63. That's where your magnets are going to start becoming strong enough. So that's 60 to 63 thousandths above the magnet. That's what this ledge will be. If you have some 1/16 inch shim stock, a guy could just put a piece of 1/16 inch shim stock in here and color it, and then when he grinds down to the shim stock, he's there. Calipers work good, little feeler gauge. So anyway, that being said, I'll go ahead and put this on. Make sure you can travel. Before you turn the grinder on, even make sure you're in a safe part to travel. The other thing is, with the belt spinning, is only feed on this side of the wheel so you're cutting into the belt. Make your full pass, come back, feed in, make your full pass. You don't want to be sure, especially with a knife blade, that you don't go a half pass and leave a high point and then come back, because if you have a high point here, it wants to grab on this side. So always, always, always feed on the, well, I want to say downhill, but coming into the belt side. So you would take a bite on this side, come back out, take a bite. Never make a cut coming here, because you basically, it's like a softball thrower. Anyway, enough talking there. So I'm going to fire this on, endanger my camera person, but it's okay. And I pretty much go at full speed on this. And the other thing, just to make it easier for myself, and maybe for viewers, is this is a dial indicator, and they don't come with the dial indicator, but they come dial indicator ready. And it's all threaded for it. So I'm going to put this little shoulder bolt on here. The only reason I use this shoulder bolt is it's just easier to get my fingers on than a normal bolt. And it doesn't have to be super tight or nothing. Usually I just kind of put it on there, rotate it a little bit, and then this is a little stop for it. And just back that off and go finger tight and push that in there and snug that down. And there's a little dial indicator, digital, and I can zero it. And so what's nice on that, well, these are about $100, and there's a lot of different places you can get them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to fire the machine. I like going basically full speed because I want the machine to do the cutting, not force anything. And I'm going to go till I just kiss the surface. I know I need to take off about 10 thousandths. So firing on. Always making sure that, always start the machine with the surface grinder table on the in-feed side. Because even if I had a big bite going here, if I'm here, I'm going to see it. If I'm on this side, it's going to grab it. So I'm going to check and make sure I make my pass. I'm going to feed in a little bit. I'm looking at my belt's centered. Feeding just a little bit, listening for the cut to start. The other thing is I'm just going to make sure I remember to snug this. Now I'm just barely starting to touch it. And just because it's black oxide and I can see shiny parts. Now I'm just starting to kiss that surface. So, nice thing with the digital, I can just zero it and basically start making cuts. And I hope I don't say anything too stupid on this video, because this is the customers, which they'll be happy because it'll be all set up ready to go, but then I have to do it again. And that's about 5,000 cut total. The nice thing is this gives a chance to the table, any unparallelism, any flaw in machining, anything there is going to come out in these first, say, 10,000. It's a little weird when you're just taking off a little 1/4 inch bite, a little choppy, but now I'm at about 7,000. And then, if I want to, I can track this belt higher and lower the cut more surface and make sure I use the full belt. But as you do that, make sure you're clear of everything. I'm going to track it back up. You don't necessarily have to always be tracking the belt back and forth. But that's how you do a little wider sock. So this would go a lot faster with the 220, but I'd also do a belt change to go to 220 anyway later, just to like the smoother finish. So I'm about 9,500, which should put me right about 60,000 height above the table. Now with this, just tracking the belt up and down. And that's pretty much it. Now, what I got here is, I want to pull this off again just for the camera. There's not a whole lot of debris. As you can see, the face of the table's pretty dang clean. And I didn't really think it had to have some material to grind. Sure, why not? This is a handle little bottle opener that was supposed to be the handle but got cut out 50% scale, so we can surface grind it. This magnetic table is designed basically to be a cost-effective magnetic table and something that you could surface the face of it, and that's why the magnets are recessed. Several things happen as a side effect, or well, something that was designed into it, is even with all that debris, I'm basically sitting flat on the steel. The other thing is, whether it be my fingertip, it comes out pretty easy, but it's not really an issue. Wire brush works great. Just made this, I haven't even tried it. It was just a little piece of brass. Great, that's going to be nice. Yeah, good shirt. Anyway, anything non-magnetic, it's really not a big deal. The little bit of debris, it wants to go to the magnets. It doesn't want to stick on the top of the table where it hurts anything. But I'm going to go ahead and clean this out because I want to measure it too. And it actually works good. I'm pretty happy with that. Little piece of brass or 1/4-inch aluminum, anything like that. I do recommend when you do it, brush your filings to the bottom side so you don't throw those little magnetic particles all over the top of your surface, but anyway, not really a big deal. And so yeah, brush them down. I would normally do it with it on the attachment or on the grinder, but I wanted to kind of show that, so I'm just kind of moving these chips there, and I want to measure it. And I'm being a little more picky than I probably have to, but this is a your user manual basically. So I should be at 60 thousandths. It's hard to hold my caliper straight on here sometimes. Well, that's weird. Let me see. That or I measured it wrong the first time, which it could happen. Ah, no. that little guy, yeah, that was hidden. So, yeah, we're at about 63. Yeah, 62. Anyway, pretty much in the neighborhood. Oh, also on the bottom of here, there's some threaded holes. We'll do that. We'll talk about those in a later video. That's for another function that I think you guys will like. Has some other parts that'll kind of go there. That anyway, I think it'll be cool. So now I can put this back on. Except these little guys. This is something very simple, and it's just some 1/8 by quarter cold rolled stock, and I'm going to throw some in there. And if you get your surface grinding attachment, I forgot to throw them in there, very likely it happens, just give me a call and I can throw some in there. It's cheap, or you can probably get it at the hardware store. I got this at a metal place. What that does is, with those lips, it allows you to, once your table's faced, is put a physical stop in here. And with that caught in that ledge, that leaves about a 1/16 of it above. And that's going to be thicker than, or thinner than most of the stuff you're going to grind. Yet at the same time, you can grind these down. You can surface grind it with the piece you're doing. But what that's going to do is make, well, that magnetic table's really dang strong anyway. So I don't think it's never going to go to that stop anyway, unless I push it there. But on small parts and other stuff, I really recommend setting up a little stop like this. And I'll probably throw in 2 or 3 or a length. I haven't quite figured it out, but I'll throw something in there. And you know, if I packaged them before this video, or before I remembered it, well, you just give me a call and I'll send some. And so this is a good example of kind of why to go with this wheel. Is it's wider than 2 inches. Well, probably right at 2 inches. Yeah, pretty much at 2 inches. But if you had a 2-inch wheel, that'd be kind of a problem. So this 2.5 lets you track up and down. Another thing I want to show. Preparedness in the video. Is you hear a lot of clicking from this seam. And I'm not sure if that'll pick up. You can see there's more wear on this seam than anywhere else on this belt seam. And what I'm going to do, this is just a diamond abrasive pad, 3M dia pad. But whether it's a diamond file or a lot of other things, is if you just knock down this seam on, you'll only really feel it on 220 and finer. Is you can just take and knock the abrasive off of this seam. Since I use it a little bit, you can see right where I need to go. And so instead of basically just that seam doing the cutting, now I usually put this on a flat surface, but anyway, just took down the high point, just made this seam to where it's no longer sticking up above the surface of the belt, or if it is, it ain't much. Just for conversation's sake, you know, I'm 17 thousandths thick there. This doesn't really tell you a whole lot but I'm 18 thousandths, you know, back to 17 thousandths. I could take that down a little more, be right at 17 and avoid a lot of that bump. Doing this on a serrated wheel is not the best. I should put a something more solid backing. But anyway, that's going to take a lot of that bump out when we start surface grinding. Now again, always make sure this can be pointed in a safe direction, kind of like a gun. Be sure of your target and beyond. Keep that muzzle pointed in the safe direction. Treat every surface grinder as if it's loaded. So, for this, of course, I got to back it back out. Nice thing is I can loosen the slide, make this a lot easier on myself. If you're using a dial indicator, be careful because there's 1.5 inch travel in this slide, and most likely your dial indicator is going to have 1 inch, because that's what I use, more than plenty. So I can kind of come in and I can just go to touch basically, But then I'm going to back out a little bit and come back in or whatever. I'm not really touching. I don't want to start with it touching. So with that, I'm going to grab. Nice thing about, at least used to kind of being a knife maker, is there's blades all over the place. That one's tapered, so I can't use it. But anyway, so I'm just going to surface grind this piece because we prepped our table, ready to go. I'm going to start with it that way. Sometimes I want to do a demo of just what not to do, but I'm not gonna. Not touching. Just started touching, so I'm going to go ahead and zero this. Now on this piece, I do need to track up and down. Not much. Then some, that was just barely zero. That's going to take off, there's 1,000. Little excessive, more than what I needed to do there. Now, the same thing with those grooves is I would get a little screwdriver, but I don't think of all these things for the video. I can slide this off, but those magnets are pretty strong. Well, by just a little screwdriver, I can pop that off. Now, that's a pretty, not bad surface finish. And I just did the one side, so it's always nice to face both sides, but, you know, I like to check the calipers. And I'm at 117. I'm at 117 end to end. Let's go this widest part and widest part. Now, it has a lot of belt to vary. You know, 1165, 116. Now, I'm not too worried about that because mainly, so I was doing the majority of my grinding not on the outer edges of the belt. So as I was facing that table, I wore down the belt more in the center. So it doesn't surprise me that these very edges are just 1/1000th, well, a half a thou and a thou. Now, of course, it also depends on how I measured, I guess. If I put it on that way, I got 1170 and 1165. It's not bad. I'm happy with within a half a thou. And so, just for the video's sake, I think about to wrap this video up, just because it's getting kind of long, and I hope it explained, did as good of a job as an instruction manual will. And I'm just wiping debris off. And I'm not worried about going against that stop. The other thing is, when you are pulling stuff off, is if you get just a little thing to pry up, rather than reefing on this, just reefing on this, it'd probably be better for everybody. And anyway, so, oh, what was it, 117? 117 is, I'm going to zero this. I haven't moved that. Just for the heck of it, we're going to take off 5 thou. Back to where I was. There's about 2.5 thou. Be about 4 thou total. When facing a wider piece, it's good to know the thickness of your belt. My belt is 17,006. Before I shift this belt, I can go 17 thousandths before I start screwing up my wheel. right at just over 5. Now, make sure I cover my surface. Now, you want to let the machine wind down, and I can slide this. I hate it when I do that. I meant to clean up this side, but that's okay. Still should have taken 5/1000ths off. Was 117, should be like 112. And I'm at 112. So that's pretty cool, you know. Yeah, end to end, pretty much the same as I can read. And so that's the neat thing with this dial indicator is I'm reading exactly 5/1000ths taken off, and if I zero it right where I left off, it's going to be pretty dang repeatable. And I meant to clean up both sides, but I forget. Shoot, I realized I need to do the tapering attachment. Well, I guess we'll tape. This is going to be a long video, but I think I can just do a simple explanation, and that at least gets started. I have some tapering videos online. So anyway, your tapering, basically if I were doing this, would be to loosen this, and then you're going to shim a taper. So I better just go ahead and do it. Except, well, no except. Fine. Sorry for my lack of preparation. Little feeler gauge set. It's already tapered. This is not going to be a very realistic piece to do, but it'll demonstrate it. The nice thing is it's Sharpie. Easy to work with. So I'm going to taper this piece. So now on this piece I have basically a sine bar. Sine bar works in the concept of rise over run. This distance being rise, this distance being run. 6 inches centers here. And I like even numbers, and that's close enough to some blade widths and stuff. So just for, call out a number, let's say it'd be, say it's 3/16 blade stock. So you want to leave a 16th down the center. Well, you're not going to, probably not a 6-inch tang. 75 thou over 6 inches, about close. Now, there's 2 pins here. The way this works is when you taper a tang, you're going to taper one side, then you're going to taper the other side. When you taper the first side, it's your first angle. When I flip that over, I just got rid of my taper. So I need to double the angle. Well, I don't want to have 2 shims, so I'm going to go first angle, second angle. Instead of doubling the rise here, I cut the run in half. So I'm going to put this guy right in here, and then a 3/4 inch wrench. I'm going to tighten down this guy. Tighten down this guy. This 220 grit belt, you know what? I'm just gonna, I really should have ordered some belts. These 36s are just gonna be, oh well, it'll throw some sparks. Back this off just because. Right. and I'm just kidding. Alright, now here's another thing, is when you do tapering, you get down to some thin stock, you want to make sure you're at the edge. I won't have that problem on this because I'm using this big old piece of 1/2 inch stock, and I'm just going to, we have our Sharpie line. I'm going to go ahead and, because you won't be able to see this side, well, the camera's kind of on a tripod, so it is what it is. I'm going to go back, I'm going to taper this, just about this whole thing. I got a 36 grit belt, it's not going to take long. But I want to put a line here that well, I think you can kind of see. I can see, but basically I'm just going to go to that line. So I got to back this out quite a bit more. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and loosen up my course adjustment and pull it out just a little bit because I'm coming towards the end of my travel. And I hope I talked loud enough. Normally it's not a problem during most of this video. And so got that on there. Make sure my slide's tight here. Go ahead and creep up a little bit. Making sure that I'm not past my travel of my slide. This part's going that way as I go, so you don't want to hurt your dial indicator. So I don't recommend 36 grit for much stuff on this other than Damascus. It's easy to get a big groove in your belt and do some damage. Just for reference, I'm going to zero that. It's about 15,000. Well, there's my line, 15 thousandths. Just about one pass. I probably should have stopped there a little bit earlier, or made another pass. But for this video, you can see that 36 grit, it gets to it. So, take this piece, flip it over. And then the other thing, when you do a taper on this, you want to make sure you're lined up parallel with the table. If you're crooked, it's going to make the line crooked. 36 grit belt, like I said, not good on this because this is pretty used and you can really wear a groove in it. So now I got to back this off quite a bit more. Well, what I did on this is I wasn't really paying attention. I should have brought this out more. But the nice thing, you got a solid reference, so it's going to come in the same. Double my angle. So I'll loosen here. Loosen here. Take the same shim, put it in the other spot, just flop those over. Tighten this down. And you probably shouldn't flop it right in the way, it could have gone the other way, but snug them. Pull that out. Now, I almost went to turn the machine on here, but that could have been bad. So always get in the habit of starting it over there. Just gonna check that, yeah. Here's 30,000 cut I've made already. I'm basically almost to the end of that block. The other thing, you don't want to stop mid-cut really. I guess basically as you're starting out and getting familiar with the machine, take smaller cuts and work up to where you're comfortable with. You don't want to force anything. And if you're making cuts or applying pressure to where it wants to kind of scoot through here and not just barely track on the backstroke, and you're taking too big a bite. Now if I want to go to 36, there's a 14,000 bite. That's kind of a big bite. But anyway, there's the tapering. That piece is probably going to be hot. So, then going back to flat. Now if I wanted to even that up, I'd have my angle set. And when I go back to flat, is I like to kind of give it a couple of clicks just to make sure it's there. Hold it. Tighten that. Tighten that. I'm back to flat. I'm probably going to drop it. A little toasty. And anyway, I have a wedge. Hot wedge. So, that's basically it. So, I'm just going to go back over. Well, I'm done. And I'm just going to go, you pull it off, kind of support it. Don't do major angles. When you put it back on, give the rollers a little wipe. When you put it back on, give these a little wipe. If you're in a real humid climate, it doesn't hurt to wipe a little bit of oil because you're going to wipe it off anyway. WD-40, whatever, just to kind of keep any little corrosion, whatever. But these are pretty tough with corrosion. The other thing is remember your coupler nut. Remember I just throw that in it. It's not really necessary, but it's a nice little rubber bumper. I put that on there. Your handle, your tapering. That's about it. I try to make it as simple as possible. If you have this indicator, most of them, the batteries do run down. Mine doesn't turn off by itself. You can leave it on there. You can take it off when you're done. I take mine off a lot of the time just because I'm moving stuff around. I don't want to break it. These backs, most of them have a lug back. If you do order one of these, make sure you specify a lug back. You'll probably have to turn it 90 degrees, but it's just 4 screws typically. This slide here, what I've noticed is sometimes you'll feel a little bit of where it's real easy and it has a stiff spot. Typically that just means that these are a little too tight together. These two nuts are just Loctited and it works great. If you get one and it happens to be easy and then tough, easy and tough, it won't hurt the working of it none. But if you want to smooth it up, usually it's just a tiny little crack to loosen these up and then it'll go smooth. But you have your knob on the bottom to set the tension. I'm not using the dial indicator. This just loosens up. Can I go past? Snug that back down. It don't go nowhere. Pulling this out. Sometimes, depending on aluminum bar stock will vary. You may have to shim the receiver. I most of the time just use a piece of business card just to shim this where I can get this in. Snug is not bad, but I don't like to fight it. I provided this 3/4 inch hole just because I figured, well, may very well like to hang it. Not bad to give these a cover while in storage. Not much debris can get in here since it does slide on round bars. It wants to push debris away rather than getting it to screw up precision. That's about it. Maybe hit these with a little bit of WD-40 or just kind of keep these cloaked and then wipe them off before you put it on. how you store it is kind of up to you. I recommend just where these can't get banged together, and only use hard wheels, 90 durometer. I like serrated, but smooth wheels can work just fine as well. And that's really about it. That's the basics of what'll come. Pretty much a surface grinding attachment is this here. These two main pieces. The wheels are optional. That's what comes with. Applying the handle is really the only assembly required. Facing the table, first step. I prefer to start off with a 220. A 100 and go to 220. But doing the 220 all the way is not bad. That's all I can really think of. Have fun.